Good evening, disciples of Satan, friends of Lucifer, keepers of the black flame. This is Patrick from HELLWITCH, coming to you from the HELLWITCH Lair, located in abysmal South Florida. I'm listening to the sound of alligators outside the lair window, feasting on human flesh. Always a good sound, always brings happiness to my black heart. But you're watching Dethrone Records YouTube channel, so subscribe, watch, share it, comment on it, live it. How did I cope up with the pandemic? Well, I coped up pretty well. I stayed busy, played tennis a lot, worked on music here and there, talked on the phone more than usual, watched movies, bought toilet paper where and when I could find it, and pretty much just had a good time, and didn't catch COVID. Main thing, didn't catch it. Fuck that shit. Concrete Winds is a new band that I picked up on not long ago. They're really good, intense, 2 guitars and drums, from Finland. Really intense, really technical, really original. Little hint of Angel Corpse in there, which I absolutely love, so that was cool. That is cool. Nerve Butcherer, that's the album that I've been checking out a lot lately. Also, new local band called Inscribed that is pretty cool. Lots of elements of stuff from the mid 80s, but fast and technical, and really pretty interesting to listen to. Definitely not your run-of-the-mill 2024 generic bullshit that a lot of bands are putting out these days and have been for the past X amount of years. So I've been listening to that, and then also revisiting some of the past stuff that I've been into for a while, like Paroxysm, again from Finland. Really good, kind of melodic and very original. Love Paroxysm. And also the staples like first Sadist album. Been listening to that a bit. Demolish from Finland. You notice I have an affinity for bands from Finland. Go figure. That's pretty much where I'm at with that these days. As far as any hobbies or things picked up during the pandemic, not really. I played tennis, listened to music, worked on music, practiced the guitar, watched movies. Pretty much the same things I had been doing before the pandemic, I did during and since. Pandemic really didn't affect my lifestyle whatsoever, except for the various inconveniences that were associated with it, which we all went through, I'm sure. So, yeah, but nothing really changed. Brief history of HELLWITCH. I formed the band in '84 along with an old college roommate, Harry. We were both attending the University of Florida, located in Gainesville, Florida. The two of us recorded a 1-song demo, kind of just for fun. That was the Nosferatu demo. It involved 1 guitar amp, 1 guitar, 1 microphone, 2 cassette decks, a seat cushion, and a textbook, which were the drums. Harry played the drums and did all the vocals, and I did all the guitars. And we circulated it. We were both big tape traders. We circulated that shit, and it got around pretty quick, and everyone seemed to really like it. So made things move forward, made me want to pursue it. Obviously, Harry wasn't a musician. He was talented, though. He had great ideas, very motivated. It was cool that we did that demo together. And then by early '85, I had met a real drummer, Dave, and a real bass player slash guitarist, Andy, in Gainesville. They were also students at the University of Florida, and I recruited the two of them to be part of HELLWITCH. They weren't familiar with the style of music, underground, death thrash type of shit. They weren't familiar with that, so I kind of discipled them in the ways of the black arts, so to speak. And we recorded with that lineup the '86 Transgressive Sentience demo and the '87 More to Reveal Dissemination demo. I then moved back to South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, which was where I was from, in early '88, mid '88, and established a new lineup there. And that finally settled on Joe Witch on drums and a couple different bass players. And then we recorded Syzygial Miscreancy for Wild Rags. And then about a year later recorded the Terra Symmetry EP for Wild Rags, though it was not released on Wild Rags because they were having technical difficulties with us and financial difficulties and all kinds of conflict going on with Wild Rags. But I'm sure a lot of your viewers have heard the stories, and they're probably true. They were for us, at least. And anyway, fast forward, broke up in '98, reformed in 2004. Actually, late 2003, started playing again in 2004. Have been together ever since. Current lineup is myself on guitar and vocals, Brutal Brian Wilson on drums, JP Brown on rhythm guitar, and Jason Flippo, the bass beast. And yeah, that lineup's pretty solid, pretty good, loving it. We all get along great. We all, we're all on the same team, fighting for the same desolation and destruction to come to this miserable planet. That's what we're all striving to achieve. Forget about the music. It's all about the death, destruction, and annihilation of this miserable effing place. And our first gig ever was actually with a band called Roach Motel. They were a cult underground punk band, from the Gainesville area, and that was in July of '85. Yeah. And now we just finished our 40th anniversary grand finale with a local show here in South Florida in West Palm Beach at the Propagandi Club. It was pretty cool. Lots of sick maniac thrashers going ballistic. And so that concludes our 40th year of HELLWITCH annihilation, festivities, brutality, slaughter, and mayhem. As for the legendary Syzygial Miscreancy album, the rehearsal process was rehearsing every day for at least a month beforehand, and the song Sentient Transmography was actually finished maybe 2 weeks before we recorded the album. That is the newest song on that album. So yeah, it was kind of a rush to get that song finished so it could be included on the recording. Joe Witch and Tommy played drums and bass, and it was recorded at Morrisound, the legendary Morrisound Studios, where albums like Harmony Corruption, World Downfall, Altars of Madness, all of those, Deicide, the first couple Deicides. We actually were recording Syzygial Miscreancy at the same time Deicide was recording their first album, and we would arrive at the studio and Glenn would be leaving, and I didn't really know who he was. I wasn't familiar with their music. I knew them as Amon, and didn't really follow them at that point. They were still just a local Tampa demo band. They had just signed a Roadrunner. We had just signed a Wild Rags. So I would always, give the horns to Glenn as we were passing each day, coming and going from the studio. We recorded with Scott the God Burns, legendary producer, engineer, visionary. Lots of great input from Scott on the recording. He knew the studio. That was his home. He was able to suggest tons of things that we didn't know, we didn't think of, to make the recording really pop and really be the best that it could be, given the short amount of time that we had. We had 24 hours to record and mix a whole album. So I think that's pretty much a record. I don't think any other band has done a full length from start to finish in 24 hours. It was really cool. The three of us, me, Tommy, and Joe, we had to track rhythm, guitar, bass, and drums all together at the same time. So we did all the songs on the album, rhythm, guitar, bass, and drums, live together at once. So that was all recorded, and then I came back after that and did all the vocals, all the solos, all the guitar harmonies, all the sound effects, all the guitar effects, etc. And Scott was really helpful with that. Like, he had a lot of good ideas, and he understood my vision. Like, I had a notebook full of notes for every song, had a few pages of notes, and I would go through the notes and explain, okay, this song has, sound effects leading in, crossfades into the music, then in the middle there's vocal effect, and I didn't really, in a lot of cases, know what effect I wanted on the vocals or on the guitar. I wanted, things to sound weird and off the wall, and Scott was really good at just, saying, okay, well, here, how about this sound? What do you think of this? And he'd run my guitar through an effect, and then he'd run my vocals through an effect, and, he was really, really a great help. He was a great engineer, great co-producer. Even though he didn't get production credit on the album, he did, in fact, co-produce the album. And it was a great experience. We rehearsed our asses off leading up to it. We got there, we would come in, do our 8-hour shift of recording, come back the next day, do our 8-hour shift, come back on day number 3, last day, finish the recording, and did all the mixing. And that was it. It was over and done with in 3 days. It was really cool. Not really any big problems. Everything went very smoothly. Everything sounded good. It has that human element, which is totally lacking, if you want my honest opinion, in 2024. With all the digitization and Pro Tools recording, Syzygial Miscreancy was recorded in state-of-the-art 24-track analog tape, which was, the best you could get at that time. And no metronome or click track, as they call it. It was done just together, played together, did it, most of it in 1 take, 2 takes, and there's timing issues. Songs speed up, parts speed up, parts slow down. There's missed drum, missed hi-hat hits. There's missed bass notes, missed guitar notes. It definitely has that human element, but nothing to really take away from the impact of what it is, the ferocity and the brutality and the exploratory feel of what it is. It's all there, intact, despite the imperfections of the human condition. So yeah, we're really proud of it. I'm especially proud of it. I wrote all the music and all the lyrics, except Senjin Transmography. As I said, we finished writing as a band, the three of us, just weeks before we had to record it. But definitely good shit. Kill people dead. As far as the sound that HELLWITCH had in the early 90s and achieving that sound, you know, I mean, as in metal history, Marshall guitar amps, you know, Pearl drums, Ludwig drums, just good, you know, good quality drums, names you've heard of. On the Syzygial Miscreancy album, I used a solid-state Marshall MOSFET guitar head and a JCM 800 412 cabinet, and a I think it was just a Boss overdrive pedal, and that was the guitar sound. All the rhythm guitars for that album were done with that setup and my 1984 Gibson Explorer guitar. But as far as sound, what really sticks out to me was when we heard the SOD album. That guitar sound was pretty monumental at that time. That was a really heavy sound, and I just remember thinking, you know, I mean, we don't sound like SOD, but as far as from a guitar standpoint, that sound was heavy as a fucking 20 million story brick building coming down on your face. So yeah, that was always, to me, kind of, you know, the point, the kind of the standard, the SOD guitar sound. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there was other great guitar sounds too. Slayer had a decent sound. Metallica, you know, Ride the Light Bulb, that had a pretty good guitar sound. And when we recorded Syzygial Miscreancy, I just used what I had, and Scott did the rest. He actually adjusted my guitar amp in the studio differently than how I had adjusted it and my usual settings on the amp. He told me, he said, look, for a recording, let me set your knobs this way and the recording will be better. The guitar sound will be crushing. And I think he was right. I think the guitar sound is pretty clear. It's pretty raw. It's pretty, you know, kicking your nose in, you know, smashing the teeth out of your mouth guitar sound. And again, too, the drum sound. Joe had his Pearl Export drum set set up, and Scott knew ways to place the mics and put a pillow in each bass drum and, you know, all that stuff to make it sound, have that, as we used to call it, the Morrisound. Everybody knew you couldn't go wrong if you went to Morrisound. If a band did not go to Morrisound at that time, you were rolling the dice with what you were probably going to get. I mean, there was Sunlight Studios in Sweden. Everything they did sounded really good. And Morrisound Studios in the United States, everything they recorded sounded really good. And there were a couple studios in California that, you know, good recordings came out of. I don't recall the names, but it was pretty much a known fact in the underground scene that if you could afford to go to Morrisound, go to Morrisound. And I mean, look, Napalm Death came over from England to record at Morrisound. Bands came from around the country, you know, around the United States to record at Morrisound. So, yeah, it was just basically the whole idea was to get a good heavy sound. And that's all we did. That's all we strived to do. We didn't have a formula or a plan or a, you know, it's just like a general thought of, yeah, we want a heavy, clear, heavy-ass sound. And I think that's what we got. Even live, even the live shows from the early 90s, we had a pretty good live sound. So, yeah. Marshall. All about the Marshall back then. Not anymore. As far as the writing and recording process now, and the last few years, um, basically, Brutal Brian and I live down in South Florida. Our other two members live in near Atlanta, Georgia. So Brian and I get together. I write pretty much all the music, probably 80-90% of the music, and I'll come up with ideas at home, actually right where we are right now, in the HELLWITCH lair. There's the guitar right there. And yeah, I'll come up with riffs, record them, try to organize them into some semblance of a flowing, well, not flowing, but what I think is a badass, badass chain of events, chain of riffs that sound good together. And then Brian and I will get together, we'll work out the drum beats together. I usually have a beat in mind, and sometimes Brian has, a lot of times he has something to add to it, which spices it up a lot, makes it more brutal. And then I have a portable 8-track recorder that I will bring to our rehearsal place at Brian's, and we will do demos of songs. And then the demos recorded at his house in his rehearsal area will be the drums and a guitar. Then I'll take the portable 8-track recorder home here in this room, this actual room, and I'll record the guitar solos, the other rhythm guitars, the vocals, etc. And then, we'll work from these demos and then listen back, give it some time, let it sink in, and make the necessary revisions. So yeah, that's kind of the process as of now. And then I have concepts in my mind of things that I feel are song-worthy topics. Usually nothing pleasant, usually something ugly and horrible and reflective of today's culture, or reflective of a piece of art, be it cinema or, whatever, something terrible and horrible that I think deserves some recognition. And I give it that recognition. And that's what pretty much makes up a HELLWITCH song. As far as the Florida metal scene in the early 90s, it seemed to have ramped up definitely from the mid-late 80s. By 90, 91, there were more shows, there were more bands, there were more venues, bigger turnouts at shows. I can mainly speak for the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area where we are. Tampa is about 4 hours away, so I really didn't see many shows in Tampa. I saw shows in our area. And as far as that goes, the scene here grew. It blew up a lot then, 90, 91, and even a couple years beyond that. It just continued to get bigger and bigger and better in many ways. Musically, in my opinion, a lot of the legendary bands started to go downhill by that time. But there was no shortage of fans, no shortage of people ready to come out and, get in the pit and throw down and kill. As far as the internet and AI, well, let me just start with the internet. I think the internet has, in a way, hurt music and art because of the oversaturation on the planet with the use of the internet. Now any person can put up their art or music, no matter how bad it is, and the whole world can see it. And I mean, on the flip side, there's the fact that good artists and good musicians can get their stuff known or, exposed quickly on the internet. Overall, I think from a listening and viewing perspective of people who are interested in those areas, it's probably more detrimental, because I think with oversaturation comes a difficulty in finding the works that are exceptional and great and, you know, above the masses, because now the mass is so big that you really have to hunt to kind of you have to hunt more to find the good stuff, and, you know, the bad stuff is probably easy to find. The good stuff is there too, but so many choices inevitably makes it more difficult to zero in on what really the excellent is. I understand, though, that you have websites that people will read and check out that give opinions, and that often will lead to finding the good band and finding the talented artists. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but overall I think the oversaturation is a bad thing, and it's just too much. It's just too much, and there's just a lot of garbage on the internet. People wasting their time having to sift through garbage to find something really, really good. As far as AI, I have mixed views on that. I've seen some cool AI artwork that I think was better than a lot of people can create. I've seen AI artwork that wasn't so great. I've seen music videos for bands that the AI just seemed to be lacking there. There seemed to be something not quite right with the music videos I've seen. So it's got its good points and bad points. I think that with the evolution of AI, it will get better. And I've heard AI bands as well. I don't think I've ever heard one that is as good as some of my favorite bands that I've, you know, grown up with and come to worship. I've never heard AI that's as good as the best human band. So at this point, anyway, that's how it is. But again, in the future, with the evolution of AI, I believe that might probably change. How it affects the scene, I don't know. I think people with half a brain will take into account that things are AI or they're done by humans, and they will judge it and, you know, gauge it accordingly. And as always, there's stupid people and there's smart people. So inevitably, the stupid people will probably grab onto some AI band and think it's the greatest thing ever, and not really care much about the human element in it. So I think, again, good and bad. I can't say all negative things about it. I think it can be good, and it can be bad as well. Yeah, so looking forward to see what happens in the future with AI and the internet and their road to future endeavors and future destruction. Oh! The most memorable concert that I ever attended or played, I'll answer both. Attended was Slayer, 1985, Columbia, South Carolina. That was a game changer for me and for whoever was there. Whoever saw Slayer in 84, 85, it was a game changer. But yeah, saw Slayer in Columbia, South Carolina, and they played 2 shows in one night at the same club. They started with a all ages show, then that ended. They took like an hour break, and then they did another full set for 21 and over. And I actually was lucky enough to, I was in touch with them then. We would talk to Carrie and Tom on the phone every now and then, and we hung out with them backstage at the club. And actually, this is the flyer from it, and they all autographed it for me. And the autographs are pretty faded, but you might be able to see something on there. Or Jeff Hanneman wrote, eat roaded cunt. I always thought that was pretty funny. Eat roaded cunt. Because he didn't put 2 T's. So anyway, yeah. Slayer, Striders, Columbia, South Carolina. Brutal Fest 1985, as I like to call it. Yeah, that was a very inspirational and epic show. We hung out backstage, and at one point Slayer, had roadies, and I mean, I was like 20, 21, and the roadies were young dudes, probably 18 to 20, 21, and there was a lot of horseplay. I mean, everybody was drinking. The roadies were drinking, the band, Carrie wasn't drinking, Tom, I think, had a couple beers, Jeff, of course, was drinking, and the dudes, the roadies, were running around backstage, and at one point, one of them spilled a full can of beer into Tom's bass case with his bass still in the case, and that wasn't cool. And they all were like, "Oh shit!" And Tom saw it and was, to my surprise, very calm and not really raging on them about it, but he was not happy. I wasn't happy. And of course, the roadies, they immediately pulled the bass out of the case and took napkins and were drying it off and trying to get the beer off the bass and putting napkins in the case to soak up the beer that had spilled. So yeah, that was pretty, I'll never forget that. You spilled a beer in Tom Araya's bass case. Holy shit. Yeah, the shows were amazing. The 2 sets I saw were amazing. They played a couple different songs. I think maybe not. They might have played the same set twice. And the guys from Hallows Eve were there. And I knew I had heard the name Hallows Eve, but didn't really know them. And they were just like this little tornado of a ball of people just going back and forth through the crowd, and lifting each other up and throwing each other and diving on each other. And it was just this little tornado of people of Hallows Eve moving through the pit. There wasn't a pit, really. It was just them smashing through the crowd of people back and forth. And I was a little concerned at one point. I think I got kicked in the head. I think somebody's foot hit me in the back of the head, and it was I started watching out for them at that point. But they were great, man. It was great. I mean, HELLWITCH was already going, and that really inspired me to take HELLWITCH even further. That wasn't my thought when I saw them. I just knew that I was super excited and super revved up, and that excitement and inspiration and adrenaline lasted after that show. After that show, I was revved up on playing music and listening to Slayer and listening to metal, and just made me more of a diehard. Seeing that show really made me more of a diehard. And really, at that point, I had only seen maybe 2 or 3 underground metal shows, first being Nasty Savage on Halloween of '84, and then that was 4 months later. That might have been my second underground metal show ever, so it was epic. And as far as performance, HELLWITCH gigs, I have to say we played the Keep It True Rising Festival October 4th, 24, and that was the biggest crowd HELLWITCH has ever played in front of. I think it was nearly 3,000 people, and it was really, really cool. Big stage, great sound, great crowd. I was just in awe of playing in front of that size crowd. So that was definitely one of the most memorable for me. And just as an honorable mention as far as gigs go, we played in San Jose, California on our 30th anniversary tour that we did with Solstice in 2014, and it was nuts. the most nuts crowd. I couldn't believe it. I figured, well, you know, people go crazy and they thrash and slam and they're stage diving and this and that. And San Jose was nonstop from the first opening of our first song to the end of our last song. These guys never stopped. They were, I can't even count how many times my mic stand got knocked over. It was just constantly getting knocked over. We get stood back up and someone would dive into it, knock it over, stand it up, knocked over, just nonstop. So that was pure insanity, and I was not expecting it, and it was really cool. So San Jose, California, what a fucking crazy metal scene they have there. Hail Satan. As far as the gear I use, guitars and pedals, I'm a Gibson man from way back. My second guitar ever that I got when I was 15 was a Gibson Les Paul, which actually is all the rhythm guitars on the Syzygial, Miscreancy, and Terra Symmetry recordings. Gibson Les Paul, and then I got a Gibson Explorer, then I got a bunch of Gibson Flying Vs, probably three different Gibson Flying Vs, and I've just been a Gibson man my whole career. Love the way they feel, love the way they sound, and they're just really well-made instruments, really top quality, which goes without saying. It's Gibson. Everybody in the world has heard of Gibson. So yeah, I play Gibson exclusively, and as far as my pedals, I have a Boss ME6 that is a model, I believe, from like 91, 92 that I've used since then. Really, HELLWITCH doesn't have a ton of effects, so I use that pedal for mainly phase and flange during Morrisound dissemination, and the solos and Nosferatu and a couple other parts, and I use the overdrive, because really in metal, most guys that use an overdrive, they use a Boss overdrive pedal. Yeah, I use a Boss ME6 pedal and a Crybaby wah-wah, which is, again, what I've used since the early 90s. And that's it. I use the Gibsons, the ME6, and the Crybaby wah-wah, and that covers all the bases for me. In the studio, of course, I may use different things depending on what it takes to get the best tone, the best sound. So I don't necessarily use those for albums, but for live and rehearsal, always that setup. And actually, on the new album, Annihilational Intercession, I did use the ME6 and the Crybaby wah-wah on that recording. On Syzygial Miscreancy, I think I used something else, didn't use those then. So yeah, that's about where I'm at with the gear. Too many to name here, absolutely. I'm a big movie nut. Behind me here, these aren't albums, these are laser discs, which is a movie format. They're a 12-inch disc, just like an album, come in a cover just like an album, but it's a movie. And anyway, yeah, that format was around, I think, from like the early 80s to the early 2000s, and yeah, it's kind of obsolete now, but I love it. And as far as what's on some of these, probably some of my favorites, Alien is definitely my favorite movie. I like pretty much all the Alien entries in the series. There's a couple that kind of suck, but I have no choice. I'm a fan, so I love it. Alien's great. The Terminator movies are pretty great. Love sci-fi, horror, 70s crime, especially New York City 70s crime movies, like French Connection, 7 Ups. Those are two of my favorite 70s crime classics. Across 110th Street, that's another. Also, as far as horror, Beast Within from 1981, one of my absolute favorites. The Cloverfield movies, love all the Cloverfield movies. I hear there's a new one coming out in 2025. I really fucking hope so, because I'm ready for more Cloverfield destruction and death. 2001: A Space Odyssey, pretty much all the Kubrick movies, classic, love them all. The Christopher Nolan movies, pretty much all those, especially Interstellar, that's one of my favorites, and all the Dark Knight movies, all the Batman Dark Knight movies. Going back a ways, all the Hammer movies. Hammer is just something I grew up with as far back as I can remember, and I always thought they were just great. And it was funny because I first saw the Universal horror classics as a small child, and then I saw The Mummy, and it was this different movie with English accents. The actors were from Britain, and I'm like, what the hell's this? And I ended up liking all those just as much as I liked the original Universal classics. All the John Carpenter movies, especially The Thing and Escape from New York, one of my all-time favorites. Assault on Precinct 13th, absolute classic. First couple Halloween movies, love those. Even Halloween 3, love Halloween 3. Creepshow, love Creepshow 1 and 2. All the Godzillas, can't lose with Godzilla. -1 was classic, but I do prefer the man in the rubber suit Godzilla. That is, only the guy in the rubber suit is real. Paul Thomas Anderson movies, Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood. He's just a genius filmmaker, love all of his stuff. All the Romero, mainly the first three, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, those are just some of my all-time favorites. And Fulci, of course, Zombie, and the list goes on. As far as non-horror, Deliverance is one of my all-time favorites. Deliverance, just really, I could watch that anytime, all the time, and I never get tired of it. Jaws is another one. Prophecy from 1980, excellent monster movie with makeup by that guy that passed away probably 10-15 years ago, whose first movie was Gargoyles. Yeah, great makeup. Stan Winston movies where he does the makeup, always love those. Mad Max, love me some Australian stuff. All the Mad Max. There's a bunch of Australian movies that are all really, really great, like Death Cheaters. I don't know, I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, a lot of Australian movies. Razorback, excellent Australian movie. Most anything the Coen brothers have done, like Fargo and No Country for Old Men, love all that. And as far as TV shows, Kolchak the Night Stalker, that's something I grew up on, love it, love watching it now. It's on TV here every week now in the United States. I watch it every week, love it. The original Star Trek series with Shatner and Nimoy, classic stuff, love it. Love the Star Trek movies as well, the old ones, first 2 or 3, and then the new ones that J.J. Abrams did. Love all 3 of those. And also as far as TV, The Terror, AMC channel series, The Terror, which was really scary and really good. And also the Chernobyl miniseries that HBO put out some years ago. That was just incredibly excellent. So, that pretty much covers the movie, TV thing. Books, not a big reader. I read fanzines. I read Fangoria magazine. I think what comes to mind is Charles Manson in his own words. That's one of the best books I've ever read. And also a book called The People Who Swallow the Dark. That's a really screwed up, really well written, excellent book. Yeah, nothing else really comes to mind. I have read many other books. The Outsider by Stephen King, one of his newer works. That's really good, and the series, the TV series they did for The Outsider was pretty good as well. I read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Really, really great. I thought the movie was better, and that, again, one of my favorite movies of all time, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So, yeah, long-winded answer. Check them out. Check them out. Read it. Watch it. Live it. Be it. That's the deal. I'd like to say thanks, James, for doing this badass interview for Dethrone Records YouTube channel. To all your viewers, check it out. Subscribe. Like it. Tell your metal cohorts about it. Get as many people as you can to check it out, because it's got a lot of great band interviews on it, and it's sure to just swallow your puny soul. So yeah, best of luck to Dethrone Records YouTube channel, and you, James. And as for me and the other witches, 2025 is coming soon. Working on songs for the next album, which will be on Listenable Records. And we have a tour planned of Europe in May of 25, which includes some festival dates like the Nice to Eat You Fest and a few others. That's a couple weeks in May of 25. And then August 25, we head to South America for a couple weeks of shows there. So that should be good. That should help us on our journey to kill people dead and just destroy whatever we can, wherever we can, and corrupt society and break down all the norms and walls into a pile of mush. So just the evil and the brutal and the bloody and the slaughtered are what remains. So yeah, I think it's a really good plan. We're going to have a really good time. Bring the wife and kids. Bring the wife and kids. They need to die too. All right. And yes, if you're into concert videos, which you should be, I mean, you're watching this, it's a video, right? I have over 12,000 concert videos and promo videos of bands. Behind me here are VHS drawers of my collection that I've accrued since 1984. It's when I started trading concert videos. So I have over 12,000 titles. You can check out my list. It's on a list at Darkest Soul Promotions, and that is www.bit.ly/Darkest Soul Promotions, or you can just Google Darkest Soul Promotions and it comes right up. Darkest Soul Promotions. And yeah, check out the list. Maybe there's something you want to trade for. Maybe there's something you want to obtain from me. So yeah, that's always a good thing to do when you're spare time, or not spare time, like while you're at work. Check out the video list so you can go, holy shit, Death from 1984 at a roller skating rink. I need to see that. These are the things you'll be telling yourself when you look at my video list. All right, all the beast. Thank you. I appreciate all you people who took your valuable time out of your valuable lives to watch this. And remember, hail Satan. Blah!